If you're looking for the best clothing deals in Salt Lake County, one place stands out for the price, quality, and the selection, and that's Zalzo. Zalzo is your destination for up to 70% off premium and mid-luxury brands every single day. Tucked just off of 3900 South in Murray, Zalzo carries the brands you actually want to wear at the prices you're happy to pay. Run over to our store today and see for yourself the weekly updates to the always impressive and expansive inventory of both adult and children's clothing. While you're here, don't forget to check out the weekly markdown racks with even steeper deals. Stuck on a work call? Go to Zalzo.com, that's ZALLZO.com for information and a listing of in-store deals. Zalzo, you'll come in just to look, but we know you'll leave hooked.
As our coach said, it's going to be a dogfight, but we are ready for that, and it's 90 minutes, we need to give everything, so yeah, we need to be locked in.
At the end of the day, the fans would see it, no? We've been trying to represent them on the pitch, and we are going to give our 100% every single game for them. And
can't wait to get back and put on, the RSL jersey and in front of the fans that have been amazing support. Without them, without RSL, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, so I'm extremely grateful and I'm excited.
What's up, RSL Nation?
Welcome to the Royal Riot.
Salvas gets it away. Catranes, the square ball. Diego Luna! It's Diego Luna now trying to turn. Luna! Oh, it's in! What a goal! A lot of space for Johnny Russell. Johnny Russell! His first start for Real Salt Lake. His first goal for Real Salt Lake. One hole! Magnificent from Real Salt Lake. And Noel Kaliskan with the best goal he's probably ever scored.
Oh, turns, overlap on the right side. Gonçalves! Yes!
Brian Ojeda. Here's a got out, third time. Is it a charm? Malagon! Luna! Yeah! Cabral has been insatiable in goal. Zuniga now! Cabral, the hero! Man! This guy's good! They have found a keeper in Salt Lake City!
Welcome back to Royal Riot. It is finally game week. The first week of RSL 2026 season is upon us. It is Tuesday, February 17th. If you are listening on a day other than when we are going live, currently we don't have anybody in our live, I do not believe. So it's just the people that are listening on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can hear our stuff. I'm sure we'll get some live people here. So if you are live, February 16th, but we take on Vancouver this week. It is time to be back for MLS season officially. We've had some CONCACAF Champions Cup games across the league going on, but for RSL, this is the first week back. Joined here by two others today. We haven't had a full squad in quite a while. We won't have that today either. Joined here for the first time in a while. LD, how you doing out there in sunny Miami?
I'm awesome, man. We're having fantastic weather right now for it being February. I got to play some 11s today, so pretty excited to get out there. And I just bought some new cleats, which I was pretty stoked about. I bought some Pumas, which I haven't worn Pumas since like high school, but those were like my glory day cleats. Like I feel like the best ball I ever played was in Pumas. So I was like, you know what? Let me pick out some Pumas. I'm going to ditch the Nikes that I was like planning to get. And I got some Pumas and they were pretty awesome to wear and play in. So got some soccer in, and yeah, man, it's been a whirlwind these last couple months, but I'm ready to get back into talking RSL because it's a team that can hopefully get me passionate about sports again, because I was in the dumps there for a few weeks.
I mean, when NFL ended, yeah, it's been kind of a rough time, especially since the Jazz can't even tank without being fined for it. But LD, what position do you play? You strike me as like a right back.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
No, in high school, well, I mean, club in high school mainly, I was attacking mid, or I played a winger and a 4-3-3 up top. And then in college, they primarily played me as a second striker. So I'm a very attacking player.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was like, I don't know why. I just feel I'm getting like wing back from you, but that's okay.
No,
David,
you don't want me on defense. I don't have the drive to defend people. I just let them go by.
yeah, you're just like, listen, you don't have to work that hard for it. Just keep on going. Let's be
Yep.
on the same level here. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I'm glad I'm not hosting anymore. So Hayden knows that it was an honor and a privilege, but I'm glad to take a seat back today. And yeah, doing good. I'm reading. I'm almost to Red Rising, so I can talk to you
Oh
about
yeah.
it, Hayden. I think I have one more book left in Mistborn, and I'll be, ready for that. And I'm also excited for the season. I want something to do on Saturday nights with my wife. So that is like the best thing.
I just want to apologize to David for not being available the last few episodes. I was a little busy over there on the RSL show, but I'm happy to be back with the Roy Riot podcast. So just wanted to send my apologies there, David. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, David, if you want to explain that, you can. Just for anybody confused
I
behind
will
the scenes.
say that I mixed up LD with another podcaster in, the RSL realm. And
Mhm.
I will say that when finding out my mistake, I was fairly embarrassed. Oh, I will say that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm sorry, LD.
That's just like your true initiation is that I had
It
to get
is.
one little. I expose Hayden all the time for the fraud that he is. So that was your welcome to the podcast moment right there, my friend. But you've been stellar. I won't lie, I haven't been able to listen to the podcast episodes just because it's been hectic for me. But I'm sure you and the rest of the guys have held it down. So we're happy to have you on the podcast doing your thing, man.
Thank you.
Well, David's been killing it the last 2 weeks. Him, Maddie, Jimbo 2 weeks ago. I wish I was on for the Red Rising conversation. Odie, by the way, great series. Got to get into it. All of our
I
listeners.
don't. I
Red Rising, Pierce Brown. I know. Listen, Audible. You drive all the time. You're always in the car. I
That's
know
true.
that about you. All of our conversations for hours on end have always come while we are both in the car. So I know
That's fair.
that for a fact. And then Maddie is currently driving, so he's not able to join this one. Unfortunately, we do like to promote being safe. Jimbo, not able to join this one as well. However, we did get both Maddie and Jimbo's thoughts that I can share because this is the predictions episode. This is the one where you can bookmark this, say whatever you want to say, and whenever we are wrong, which we're not going to be this time because we're going to have a perfect read on what this season is going to be for RSL and for all the other teams in the Western Conference, and maybe even some Eastern Conference preview here as well. We'll be able to give you a deeper dive discussion. So let's hop right into that. Like I mentioned, MLS kicks off this Saturday. RSL on the road against the reigning runner-ups in both CONCACAF Champions Cup and MLS Cup. They fell to Miami in both of them, so unfortunate for Vancouver there. We are taking on a very good team. Miami is a team, or excuse me, Vancouver is a team that has gotten rid of one of their best players, I want to say, with Ahmed. And we'll have to see how they look. But we'll save that for just a little bit longer. Let's talk about the entirety of the Western Conference right now and where we see RSL. So the MLS season previews dropped. And of course, RSL not very high in their rankings, where you never really are. So it's not too much of a surprise here. The average has us ranked at 10th. Which is just outside of the playoff picture. If you remember, the 9th spot is the final spot. 8 and 9 are wild card spots, and those two play off against each other before the actual playoffs begin. So the average, they had us at 10th. The highest was at 9. The lowest was at 13. So nobody had us dead last. Nobody had us that low. Thank you, Bradley Wright Phillips, for not dropping us all the way down there. But really doesn't look too promising when you just look at the predictions coming out from the MLS. I don't know what you want to call it. All of their Apple TV talent, I guess. LD, what are your thoughts on the predictions? Do you think that do you agree with these predictions? We'll go over ours in just a minute, but what is your just rough thoughts on around 10th in the league is where in the Western Conference is where they're predicting us?
Listen, all I'm going to say is as sure as the sun is going to come out tomorrow, Pablo Mastroeni is going to somehow figure out to make this team make the playoffs, right? So
Right.
I think they honestly low-key know this because it seems like every year this is the same projection spot that we get put in. There might be a couple years
Yep.
here and there where there's a few believers that put us making maybe not like a contender for MLS Cup, but at least like somewhat of a deep run in the playoffs, while the others are projecting us to be in the bottom part of the standings. I'm actually really surprised because I felt like, and from their perspective, they have to cover a lot of MLS teams, right? And so it might be difficult for them to really pay attention to what our front office did this season, especially because we got in the game a little bit late with all of our additions. But I think that seeing this team and the way that they formulated it and put it together, this team should be reaching much higher expectations than what these analysts have put out for their projections. So I actually, for the first time, I would say, it could go either way, right? Either RSL proves these guys right, which usually isn't the case because they end up at least making playoffs, or they end up, proving them wrong and make a deep run in the playoffs, or at least have a better season than what they're projecting. But like looking at this team, I've obviously have been paying attention to all the additions. I've been looking up, these player acquisitions that we've made and kind of what they've done in their previous leagues. And I'm just super excited. So excited that I think these projections, you can just throw them away. I wouldn't pay attention to these projections whatsoever. I think these were just projections that they had to come up with, and RSL's kind of not at the forefront of their mind. So they think like, oh, you know what, let's just put them as, they're going to be like not making the playoffs, but they'll probably end up making the playoffs anyway. Kind of a throwaway just pick essentially. And so, yeah, I just kind of want to say to the RSL fans, like, don't put too much merit into this. I think they'll admit to you as well that you shouldn't put much merit into their projections. I think this team has a lot of exciting talent that can absolutely surpass what these projections are. It might take a little bit at the beginning to really gel and get things together, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see how this team comes together, and in my opinion, will eventually prove these projections to be wrong. I think we're going to get into what we think RSL will end up being. So I won't necessarily say exactly where I think they're going to be yet in the standings, but I do think they easily, as long as injuries don't play a huge factor, surpass these projections that the MLS analysts have put out.
Right. And that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. You mentioned these preseason rankings. They don't mean anything. It really is just fun. We're just desperate for some soccer. I think that's really all it is across the board. With all the analysts, the fans, everyone's just excited to get going. And these rankings aren't really meant for anything, but I do enjoy them as a starting point of what the league sees as us as. I think it's more important on what fan expectations are. So we'll go over that a little bit as well. David, I know you're more in tune with what's going on around the league, around the Western Conference. Are there any teams that stand out from you? You have the full list. So the actual list, for those listening, they have LAFC first, Vancouver second, San Diego third, Seattle fourth, Galaxy fifth, Austin sixth, Minnesota 7, Portland 8, Houston 9, Dallas 10, RSL 11, San Jose 12, St. Louis 13, Colorado 14, and Kansas City 15. David, are there any teams in the Western Conference that have jumped out with you with their moves that they have made this offseason that have put them in a definite, okay, this team got better from last season, regardless of if they're better than RSL, just this team got better because of their offseason moves?
Hard to say. I would say that probably Austin. Austin did make some good moves, and they invested into their squad a lot. A lot of teams kind of just like, I don't know, they didn't overhaul their roster. Like LAFC didn't really add anything, and their fans love a little bit of Twitter banter, but really, you got Heung-min Son. Like, you don't need to go out and get a lot more. So they didn't really mess with it. Vancouver Whitecaps, I do think, is going to have like a down year from their, stellar, amazing year that they had last time. And so with San Diego, honestly, they didn't really add anything as well. The only problem I have with these standings is I think LA Galaxy is ranked way too high for what they did. They really just went out and got some MLS guys, some that did good in the league, some that did okay, but they didn't really, add anything. And they're not going to have Ricky Pooch for like another season. So why do I expect they're going to be that much better? I would maybe put them at like 9 or 10 sneaking in the playoffs, but I do not think they're going to be world dominant.
I do actually really agree on the Vancouver and San Diego part. I think those are abnormal years. I think both will regress. Vancouver less so. I think their regression will be a bit less because they'll have Gauld for hopefully the entire season this year, and I think that is a huge part for them. And they have made 1 or 2 moves that I was like, okay, that's still a contending move. Their biggest thing is there's so uncertainty with that ownership, so you have to wonder how that starts playing into those players' minds, especially knowing where are we even going to play. San Diego, they did nothing. And it's the same thing that St. Louis did. St. Louis had a fantastic opening season, had room to do stuff, and they just sat on their butts and said, nah, we're not going to make any moves. We have a DP spot. We have this. We have this. They have the ability to make moves if they want to. They're choosing not to. They have a U22 spot and a DP spot open, and they're not making moves. I think this is terrible from San Diego. But again, it's something that their fans aren't going to hold their leadership accountable for because they had a great opening season. It's already better than what they thought it would be. And unfortunately, I don't think they'll make it to that next year. I think that they'll regress. And actually, I think that if they miss, I would bet money on them missing the playoffs this season. I think San Diego is going to have a struggle of a year, even if Dwyer is as good as he has been. I think that they're just not going to be as good. I think their players played a little bit above expectations, and that will come down as teams start to take them a bit more seriously and they have a target on their back like St. Louis did. The team that I disagree with you is LA Galaxy. Only a little bit. I think they will be improved from last year. I don't know if it's shooting up all the way to fifth in the West improved. That is a pretty big shot. So I think that you might be right there. I was actually talking to Maddie on the phone today about the Galaxy, and the key signings that they brought on was Jacob Lesnes, Justin Hack, Jao Klaus, and Eric Tommy. Those four names, if it was 3 years ago, that is a killer team. That is a great, great team. Unfortunately, it's 2026, and those are some pretty old players with the exception of Hack, who that player I actually think is a fantastic signing. Glesnes, I think, is a really good signing, even though he's 31. I think that that center back duo will be one of the, if not the best duo in the league this season. I don't rate Klaus at all. Maddie and I disagree on that very, very much. Maddie really rates Klaus. I don't personally, so I think they'll struggle up top again, but they have elite service with Paintsill. So maybe Klaus looks a bit better. And Tommy has always been one of the better midfielders, in my opinion. So I really like Tommy. It's just he's getting older, but I think he still has some gas in the tank. So I think Galaxy are going to be good. I don't know if fifth is where I would put them, but I do think Galaxy, and then Portland was one of my favorite teams with what they did. But another team that I thought has actually done quite a bit is Houston. I just don't know if it'll actually work. They've went out, they've made some splashes, they've spent some money. I think them and Austin were the only two teams that actually spent more money in the Western Conference than RSL. I just don't like the moves that much for Houston. I don't think they make all that much sense. I do like the moves for Austin a bit more. I still don't really believe in Austin, but Houston's the only other one. But I actually don't believe in Houston, regardless of the moves that they have made. So let's talk about some of the predictions that we'll make. And then we'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about where we actually place ourselves. So before, I want to get into some actual player predictions first, and that will kind of set us up for where we're predicting RSL to fall in this Western Conference. First off, I want to say, LD, who leads RSL in goals and assists combination this season? What's your prediction?
I was thinking about this a lot. Is this individual? So like individual who leads in goals, individual who leads in assists, or combination?
You can do it however you want. I think Maddie did it, or sorry, not Maddie. Jimbo did. He says he thinks Morgan will lead RSL in goals and assists will be Luna. So he did separate. Okay. You can do it either way.
Okay, I'll do the same. I think actually I have so much faith in Victor this year. I think after watching Morgan's clips that Victor's, and then obviously you have Diego right there, at the 10. I think he's going to get so many opportunities, not only to just, get those first chance creations where he can shoot and put a goal in the back of the net, but I think he's going to be able to clean up a lot of rebounds and, those potential goals where you don't really see it coming, where it's like a spill from the goalkeeper or, a deflection to his feet that he's able to put back. I just, with this type of system that I'm imagining that Pablo's trying to play out there, I just think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Victor. So I'm going to put him as our leading goal scorer. And then, yeah, of course, I'm going to have to put Diego as the leader with assists for the squad, just because it's Diego Luna. He's always involved in goal scoring chances, and so I can imagine that most of that service is going to be coming from his feet in one way or another, and obviously he'll put some in the back of the net as well.
I like it. David, what's your prediction?
It's the same as LD, honestly. I'm really high on Victor. I think the system works well with him. And then as I don't think Diego is maybe here after August, he will put up a lot more assists around spring, so he's number one for the season. A good shout as well is Sanabria. I believe that he'll probably be second or third on our assist list this year. But yeah, Victor, I'm super high on, and of course Diego. he knows what's at stake this year, and he's up for it. So I believe in that guy.
I like it. So this will be a little bit of maybe a hint of who I'm going to have for a different award this year. But I actually think, so we're looking right now, if you're watching on our YouTube, we're looking at the projected 11 from MLS. And keep in mind, they have AI do this now, so it's not ever going to actually be completely accurate. I don't actually think Gozo is going to be our right wing back. I actually think it's going to be Dominic who starts there. I think he's more familiar with the position, and I think Gozo will be our first player off the bench for the majority of games, or him and Morgan will be switching a bit. So I actually don't think it will be Gozo starting there, and that's actually why I'm choosing Dom to be the leader in assists for RSL this year. I think he is going to start at right wing back. He's had terrific service for a long time with RSL. He just hasn't had the guys to put it away. I think Olatunji is absolutely going to lead in goals scored, and it's going to come from the feet of Dominic more often than not. I think Sanabria will be third or second or third as well. Luna, Sanabria, and Dominic, those three are going to be getting a lot of assists, I think, but I do think Dominic will actually take it. Morgan, I do expect to be able to get a lot of goals, but I think Olatunji, if he can just finish the balls that he's going to get, I think that he is going to have elite service coming not only from the middle, but from the wings, which makes it extremely hard to defend when you have Luna in the middle and two wingbacks who can put a ball anywhere you want. And that's why I think the Sanabria move is so big. Even though Catranis is a great player, Sanabria is a different level attacking. I mean, Catranis was a great attacker. That's why I'm so high on what Sanabria is. But I do think with Dominic, Sanabria, and Luna, it's going to be disgusting for Olatunji. I think Morgan's going to have a ton of opportunities as well. I think he's going to be a competitor for the Golden Boot in MLS this season. Now, to win it, he's going to have probably around 25. Will he get there? I don't know, but I think it is like, if you're just saying RSL single goal scoring record, I like his odds when you're looking at who he has surrounding him, getting that ball to him, and you have another good player with Morgan. If Morgan can just take off some of that load, so it's not every single center back has the ability to double team him, I think that Olatunji is going to have an absolutely amazing season. So let's get it into that. So my breakout player of the year, our next one, I'll just keep on going here as it's Dominic for me. I think Dominic's going to have a terrific season. That's if RSL wants to get to this next level, it's Dominic takes over that right wingback spot. DeAndre Yedlin, I actually think, will also be coming off the bench pretty soon, not at the beginning. I think our new U22 center back will take over that right center back spot. Now, obviously, keep in mind, whenever we're talking about these wingbacks, there's going to be quite a bit of rotation because they're going to be expected to do a ton. So Yedlin, Gozo, Dominic, Sanabria, Catranis, they're all going to share quite a bit of minutes, even throw Junka in there as well. But Dominic is going to be my breakout player of the year. Jimmy's is Kobe Henry. And then Maddie had Gozo, which I think is fair as he's still a younger guy that it's like, okay, his breakout is taking the next step. So we've already seen it, but can he break out on an MLS level essentially and get to that, maybe, starting to look into that United States spot? LD, let's go to you first again. Who's your breakout player of the year?
So just to get this right, the definition of breakout player is they take that next level, they take it to the next level, take it to the next step. Is that correct?
Yeah, it breaks out from what they are now. So a lot of the times breakout is literally just, well, they weren't good last year, now they're good kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. I want it to be like, if you want to use it that way, great. That's kind of how I'm using it with Dom. But if you want to use it as, they're going to go up a tier from where they were, and you're going to notice it, and they're going to put MLS on notice, because currently the only player we have that has put MLS on notice is Diego Luna. So anyone other than that, I think, is in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer for me would be to go along with, Victor, since, because of his year last year, like he showed potential, but like if he ends up being, RSL goal scorer where he's close to breaking records and potentially putting the ball in the back of the net more often than not, then he would easily be the breakout player of the year. However, because I picked him as the most goals, I think, in my opinion, I'm going to go with Tyler Wolff off the bench being our breakout player of the year. And the reason why I pick him is because I think he's shown a lot of promise in the offseason to really, make a name for himself on this squad. He's not going to be the star. He's not going to be, the guy that, we're going to potentially lean on to win games for us. But I do think he's going to be a spark off the bench where if things are dull or things are just not, flowing correctly, he's a guy that can kind of rewire the system, or at least give a spark as he comes on and maybe just like wake things up. And he'll get some goals, he'll get some assists in there. So I'm really excited for Tyler Wolff. Again, he's not like the flashiest name on the squad, but I do think he's someone that we're going to be very dependent on coming off the bench. Like if you think about, players in the past, like your Luke Mulholland's, I'm having trouble just thinking of people right off the bat, but just, that player that would come off the bench and you were like, oh, like this is exciting to see him come on and like hopefully wake us up a little bit, right? Gets things going a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put Tyler Wolff as my breakout player of the year. I am a little concerned about your pick, Hayden. Not that I don't believe in Dom, because obviously we've seen him have some success. I just, I agree with you. He had a lot of serviceable balls that could have ended up as goals that didn't happen because we just didn't have people who could score, right, on our squad at that point. So I can definitely see Dom, taking a step up this year. I just, those games where he was really struggling and it eventually ended up being a loan into Cincinnati haven't left my head. He was struggling when he left. And he's the kind of guy where it feels like if things aren't consistently going well, he gets into ruts and it's hard for him to get out of those ruts.
It's a mental thing.
So I really hope that, the time over in Cincy and then him coming back and maybe realizing, maybe how good of a club this is and the opportunity that he has at his feet here maybe changes things up and he's able to get into that right mindset. But I need to see it. Like, I need to see it. And so I'm not trying to say that the potentials are there. Like, if he ends up becoming your breakout player of the year, I won't be shocked because I know he has the skill and the talent, right? I just think he needs to be able to, like, we know Pablo, right? Pablo is not scared to bench someone if he doesn't feel like he's not benefiting the team more than someone else on the bench could be.
Especially when there's Gozo, there's Yedlin, there's plenty of options right there.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I'm hesitant on your choice. Not that it's not going to happen. I have, hope it happens for Dom, and if it were to happen, I wouldn't be shocked. But I am going to wait and see. I want to wait and see because I'm not fully confident that not that he's still in that rut, but like I just need to see him be the player that we saw him at times during that first season, and then kind of at the beginning of the second season. But then obviously, he flailed off from there. So we'll see with Dom. But if it ends up happening, I'll be super happy because I think he can be such a valuable player for our team if he's in the right mindset and playing as consistently as he should be.
So one thing that I loved about Dom is everything that I heard about him going into this offseason is we were moving off of him. He was coming back and then we were going to move him. And then he comes into the preseason and he's still here as a guy who's not wanted, right? It's a guy who it seems like we're actively listening to offers, maybe even trying to shop, looking for replacements, whatever it is. And we don't bring in a right wing back this offseason. We just don't bring one in. Yedlin's being the right center back. And then in preseason, every game, there's Dom. He's over there on the right wing back. And those games that we could watch. Now, of course, there was only a couple that we could actually watch, but he looked fantastic. He looked like a different player. His confidence was there. So I absolutely agree with you where it looks like he can get in ruts. It's going to come down to, can he stay in a good spot and can he put some good games together to give himself some confidence? I think getting going early is going to be the key to his success. In these first couple games, getting going, getting some quick assists. So obviously, so much of him is going to come down to, can Victor and Morgan put it in the back of the net? Because if they don't, it's going to be tough for him. He was serving up dimes, but unfortunately, he had some of the worst forwards RSL has ever had trying to finish them. So it's kind of difficult to look at him for the last 2 seasons.
Right.
Or I should say season and a half. He's had 31 total games with RSL, and mainly he came in halfway through our really good year, but that was when Chicho really declined, and then he had that half season last year until we put him on loan to Cincinnati. So still a lot of unknown with him, but I absolutely can see where you're coming from. David, your not newcomer of the year, your breakout player. Who do you think that's going to be?
So at the beginning of this conversation, I was thinking what LD was thinking was Tyler Wolff. He's been great this preseason, and Pablo speaks really highly of him. Also, I will have to say that Xavier Gozo did play right wing back in the last game, against LA Galaxy. But one reason maybe because we had 2 games going on at the same time, and you want to maybe maximize like the playing time of, Dom and Gozo. But I'm going to say, I was going to say what LD said, but I will say Zach Booth. Almost said Taylor. But Zach Booth, I think, will get some minutes off the bench and he will show us what he is, what he can do. And honestly, I think he is a great signing, kind of underrated this offseason, but he does have experience in Europe. He was, really like a good prospect for the U.S. men's youth national team. And I think him coming back home, he's going to want to show what he can do to have his loan be extended into a purchase option and stay with the club. So I think Zach Booth, when Luna does need some rest, will show up for this squad.
I actually think that's a great shout. I've completely forgotten about Zach Booth because we've had quite a few new players, but this actually brings us into our new player of the year. So we do have quite a few this time. So it actually will be a bit more fun to predict which of them are going to make the biggest impact. I'm going to go with what Jimmy and then Maddie said first, and then we'll go to Odie again. Jimmy believes that newcomer of the year will be Sanabria. I think that that's a really great shout. Like it a lot. Maddie thinks that for RSL to be good, it needs to be Morgan. He also wants to give a shout to Sanabria. He thinks RSL is going to have a really good season. And so he went with Morgan being his new player of the year because of that. So I think that's very fair. LD, who do you think is going to be the new player of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think none of those are wrong answers, right? I think whether it's Sanabria or whether it's Morgan Gilavogi, I think, you're going to be, the team's going to be good if one of those are the newcomer of the year, right? Because it either means you have Sanabria who's going in there and really obviously he's going to do his thing on the defensive side, but he's going to add so much to the attack, whether it's assists. We know that he can put the balls in the back of the net every once in a while. So if he's newcomer of the year, it means he's doing that at a high clip, which I think is very positive for the team. But, I think I have to give the edge to Gilavogi. I think if he ends up being the newcomer of the year, it either means that he's contending for the Golden Boot, at least on our team, or he is playing, such a huge impact for us on the attacking aspect that it's benefiting Victor, it's benefiting Diego, any of the wing backs that are getting involved in the attack. So I'll go ahead and even though I think both answers can be correct for newcomer of the year as far as our team being successful this season, I'm going to go with Morgan and say he'll be the newcomer of the year. But I have really high hopes for Sanabria, and I think he's going to be just absolutely just awesome. I don't even know how much more to say it, but just awesome for our team. So I'm excited for him.
Love it. David, who's going to be your newcomer of the year?
Yeah, it's going to be the other guy, Sanabria. But I think both are very easy answers. I just think that as Real Salt Lake fans, we love it when people get back and do things on defense. We absolutely cheer like crazy at the Riot when Katranis, for example, gets back on the other side of the ball, wins the ball back, and then even just floats it up to the forward. So I think as just kind of how I like soccer and how I see other people like soccer, we love those two-way players that get back on defense and then contribute with assists on the other end.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with, it's really hard because it really is, if you think RSL is going to be great, it's going to be Morgan or Sanabria. I'm going to just go with my gut here and say Engel, though, is going to be that newcomer of the year because of how solid he has to be at that left center back role. Out of all the new guys that we have, he's really the one who probably will see the most minutes. I don't really think we have a sub that is a like for like. I know there's Junka. I do think Junka's taken a little bit back from where he was last year, and I do think Engel's really solidified himself in that spot and that there left open. So that's who I think will need to be very good alongside Justin Glad. We've talked about the new guys and the attack, but our defense was pretty poor last season. It was a little bit below average. It wasn't worst in the league, but it was really propped up by a great goalkeeper. So Engel is who I'm going to be really looking at. What's his connection like with Justin Glad, with Sanabria, with Spearings, with Luna and Nelly, all those guys that he's going to be, working very closely with. But if we're going to be a good team, we're going to need to have a good defense, and that's who I'm looking at because I do think we're going to be a bit better than maybe projected. I do think the Western Conference is going to be pretty nice this year, but I'll go with Engel there for my newcomer.
Can I add one thing? I think something that could be kind of I don't know if it's a hot take, but maybe that isn't getting enough of a shout is, like you said, our defense was so bad last year, and thank goodness for Rafa Cabral, right? Saving us literally every single game. Right. I think if Spearings ends up being maybe a possible newcomer of the year, that's going to just easily solidify our defense is from the fact of Engel, Glad, and, whoever it is on that right center back spot, whether it's Yedlin, Arias, whoever we end up putting there, it's going to solidify that defense so much because, and maybe you guys can correct me, but from the amount of highlights I watched from him, it seems like he really does well at shadowing, that 6 spot and maybe, covering that back line. And if you think about it, we haven't really had a solid defensive midfielder like that since obviously you have KB5. Since KB5, who have we had that has really come in and been like a cemented 6 or just, that center defensive midfielder in that position? So I don't know. I just think if Spearings comes in and really, takes on that role, that's going to provide so much relief to our back line. It's going to provide so much relief to Cabral. And then not only that, but it allows the opportunity for more counterattacks for our attacking side, right? Like if we can have him just shut down the attack and then immediately transition that to either Sanabria, whether it's a Diego Luna in transition, Gozo or Marchuk, right, to set up a Latunji or Morgan who are making those runs, towards the net. I just think that's going to be, such a pivotal thing that maybe people overlook from the back end of things, right? I think we look a lot about who are the players that are going to have the ball at their feet and start going at the goal. But also you have to think of those players that can shut down an attack very easily, really take a ball off of someone's foot, be super physical, to get, a player to turn the ball over and then immediately give that to a player to transition. So that's one that I think if he ends up being a newcomer of the year, that could actually be very, very impactful for our team, not only from a defensive perspective, but as well to transition to the attack and hopefully score more goals this season.
Yeah. And I'll just add one thing real fast. I will say that Everton Luiz was probably one of those players right after Kyle Beckerman that was defensive midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that that's exactly what Jason Christ said when questioned why did we move off of Ojeda. It's because Anelli and Ojeda played very the same style. They did pretty much the same things. So they wanted to bring in someone like Spearings. He's a big guy too. I believe he's going to be one of the tallest on the pitch as well. And that he does have some assists. If you look at his record, he does put up some goals and assists, but he is kind of more of, I'm going to break down these attacks. So I think LD has a fair shout. If Spearings does do well, and it is kind of questionable if he's going to even start on Saturday, this team is going to be very well in the defense.
I very much agree with that. Now, you kind of covered that. Our midfield, I think that we're a bit dinged up heading into the season. Ruiz is injured. Anelli is injured. Spearings, I think, is trying to get his visa. He wasn't in the lineup at all against Galaxy for either of the games. Essentially, the lineup. So in our last preseason game, we played the Galaxy twice, like David mentioned, and none of our midfielders. So we had Noel Kalaskan and Luka Moisa in the first lineup. And then we had Griffin Dillon and Omar Marquez in the second lineup. So none of our midfielders look healthy right now. I do think that Griffin Dillon could very well. Or excuse me, we had Kalaskan right there. I don't know if I mentioned him. I think it's going to probably be Kalaskan and Griffin Dillon starting this week, which will be interesting because Dillon's pretty young. I mean, I do actually think that if the visa situation is tough with the 3 players, I don't know what the current update is, especially going to Canada for this first game. But Sanabria can play in the midfield as well, and Catranis can be that left wing back. So if Sanabria is available, I could see that be an option. Put him up in the midfield and then put Catranis out there. So this first game, really try not to read too much into what the position will be because of how little we have available. And it's funny because I do think we have a good amount of depth on the wings, the wing backs, the center backs, but our worst depth spot is the midfield. I think that we really have a pretty decent drop-off after Spearings and Anelli. I mean, you have Kalaskan and Ruiz. I just personally don't rate Ruiz too high. So we'll have to see. Maybe he's a man on a mission after he had a failed loan attempt out to a Chilean team that fell apart. So maybe he's really going to be trying to get back into the team and be very good. But for me, that's the position where I'm most concerned about is that double pivot midfield.
See, and just to give you an update.
Oh, go ahead, David.
Sorry, Hayden. Is that I believe on I think it was Trey on an ESPN 700 interview said that Spearings should be with the squad this week. Now that doesn't say anything about being available on Saturday, but it's kind of at the end of that visa process, and Pablo Ruiz is training with the team. So that knock that happened against Orange County SC, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if that's going to mean he'll play on Saturday, but it seems like options are coming back. But like Pablo said, it's probably going to be match day 3 when you see the strongest lineup.
And I was going to say, Hayden, I actually like kind of disagree from the midfield aspect. Like if you think about it, if we are, let's say, obviously right now people are dinged up, but like if we're at everybody healthy, 100%, all right, and you got Spearing starting, you have Anelli to the side of him, right? So you have those two guys, which I think, from what I've seen from Spearings, I'm pretty excited for him. Obviously, we got to see how he gels to MLS, right? It's not an easy transition over to this league. But if he is doing well and if Anelli's doing well, and you're telling me that if we need a sub or for some reason one of those guys needs rests or whatever the case may be, we have Noel Caliscan, who has tons of minutes playing for RSL under his belt. And then we have Pablo Ruiz, who has tons of minutes. And you know this, I'm not the biggest Pablo Ruiz fan, but I'm going for Pablo Ruiz coming off the bench, bringing his own little spice to the game, right? And if we have to shift things around a little bit so that, he's not a defensive liability for us, then I'm okay with that. But I just think, experience really matters. And experience, obviously our system's a little different than what Pablo Ruiz has been a part of in past RSL seasons. But when you're playing for a coach that you have chemistry with, you have chemistry with the club, you kind of know how things operate when it comes to under this coach. I think that's huge when it comes to coming off the bench. So do I think Pablo Ruiz and Noel Caliscan coming in is a easy like-for-like trade with Spearings and Anelli coming off? No. But I think there's a lot more, there's a lot less depth we could have in that position if we didn't have two experienced center midfielders coming off the bench in Noel Caliscan and Pablo Ruiz that we do have. So I actually feel like we're pretty good at that position. Now, if injuries start coming into play, that's a whole different story, right? Like if there's people that are not available for long amounts of time, sure. But yeah, I mean, like it's not like we're pulling people up from the Monarchs like you said it, you're like, Griffin Dillon might be, and not that trying to knock Griffin Dillon, but when you don't have experience playing in this league, it really shows, especially in these early games. So
especially against a team like Vancouver. But
right. So
I actually can very much agree with that point to where, if you're only needing those guys for sub minutes, Ruiz and Caliscan, very solid subs. Now, do I trust them for full games? That's where I start getting concerned. Now, a full game every now and then, absolutely, that's fine. It's more just over a longer period of time where Anelli, he's had knocks recently. It's been hard for him to stay healthy. Spearings, we really don't know what we're getting. It's kind of hard. Brøndby isn't a team that we really can watch or really understand what that level is compared. Now, we know that he has had some pretty good experience. Their fans liked him enough. It's just he was very expensive. So we essentially got him for free and just took his salary. So his fee he really is low downside with us and should be a pretty high floor as well. I think Spearings could be a very good player. Now, what I want to talk about next is we're going to just talk about really quickly, who do you think is going to be RSL's MVP? And then we'll get into more I'm going to talk about the first 10 games. We're going to blitz the first 10 games because I think it is an incredibly tough schedule. And then we'll highlight Vancouver specifically. LD, your MVP for the 2026 season. What's your prediction?
It's going to be Moon Boy. I mean, even if we get rid of him after the World Cup because we get to sell him for boatloads of money, I think him going to the World Cup has to make him your MVP, or not World Cup, sorry, but him going potentially to Europe after a great World Cup performance, potentially, he has to be your MVP. I think you have to expect so much from Diego Luna. And it's kind of a lot of pressure for Diego Luna this year. I'm not going to lie. Like it's a World Cup year for him. It's no more like, Diego Luna is like on an RSL team that doesn't really have much in the attack. Their defense is like, we have like a team that can compete. We absolutely do. Yeah, there's going to be some players that have to acclimate to the league. Yeah, there's going to be some rocky starts at the beginning, but this roster compared to last year's roster is miles ahead. And so I just think that Diego Luna has to really showcase himself. And he already knows that because, it's not, the rosters aren't set for the World Cup, right? So he wants to make sure that he's going in
with guns falling with leads. He's got competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you want to go in with guns a-blazing. So I think he has all the talent and skill and tools in the world to take on that pressure this year brings. And I think he's going to live up to it. So Diego Luna, easily, Moon Boy, will be our MVP this season.
David, who's going to be your MVP?
I'll go quick. Diego Luna, obviously. I think that, he's going to show up this spring, and then also I do think he will make the World Cup roster. So he is going to be, also, I will have to say he's also probably our most marketable player. So he is like on every promo talking to Magic Johnson, and it's pretty cool to see. I think that even if his numbers aren't better than maybe Victor, like Victor outscores him or Sanabria gets more assists than him, but he has probably over like 10 goals and assists, he'll be like our MVP for sure.
I think he's going to need to have over 20 goals and assists combined. If we're combining those stats, he's going to need to have over 20. Maddie actually talked about how he needs Morgan to have 25 goals and assists, Luna to have 25 at least, Olatunji to have 20 because he's assuming that he's not going to have as many assists. For us to be as good as he thinks we're going to be, those are his expectations. His MVP is Rafa. That's what his prediction is. And I actually very much can see where he's coming from. He wanted to give a shout out to Rafa, which, I mean, you kind of forget about him back there when he's that solid. It's just something that you're excited to have. And then he makes an amazing save and you're like, okay, I love this guy. Jimmy also went MVP Luna. That's who I'm going with as well. It has to be Diego Luna. The pressure is absolutely on him this season. It's not, oh, what will Diego Luna do? Will he take his next step? It's he has to. If he wants to make the World Cup squad, he has to take that next step. And if he wants RSL to be a good team, he has to take that next step. So I think, to go off David's points of most marketable player, I think he's most marketable player of all time for RSL. I don't even think it's close. I don't think we've ever had a player as marketable as him. We've never had a player on New York Times billboards. We've never had a player that is on the front cover of the new MLS fantasy game. He's on the cover with Sun, and I believe it was, can't remember the other one. I think it was a goalie. Who was the other one? But this guy, I mean, he's on the cover of everything. Everywhere you look from MLS, it is Diego Luna, Diego Luna, Diego Luna. It has to be him. He's going to be one of the best players in the league, and he has to take a step up to where he is not only a great player for RSL, but when he steps on the field, he is one of the best players, and that is even when we are playing great teams, which we are very early on this season.
Two things. From the most marketable conversation, I think it's fair to say that if you were to talk to most people inside the state, obviously all the RSL fans know who Diego Luna is, but if you went up to like random people in the state and you brought up Diego Luna, my guess is most are going to be either thinking of the actor before they think of the player, right? Yeah. But, if you bring up Kyle Beckerman, Nick Rimando, most people can obviously click to that. Now, part of that is their legends already and longevity of them being on the team, correct? But so I will say that right now, as we speak right now, do you think outside of the state, just in soccer as a whole, right, Diego Luna is more marketable than Nick Rimando and Kyle Beckerman? But from an in-state perspective, I still think it's Nick Rimando and Kyle Beckerman as far as like within the state, if you're just trying to grab casuals talking about RSL, right? But if he ends up lighting it up this season and goes into the World Cup, we already know the reason why Kyle and Nick really bumped up their status in the state of Utah is because they both got called up into that 2014 World Cup. Obviously, a lot of people knew who they were before that, but that 2014 World Cup really, a lot of people who don't watch RSL are watching the U.S. men's national team in the World Cup. And so when they see that Kyle Beckerman and Nick Rimando, they play for Real Salt Lake, and then we're advertising that through our channels, right, as a club, they see that. So I think Diego Luna, if he shows up, like it's going to be like unanimous decision that he will be the most marketable from outside the state and inside the state. Second thing, I want to say Diego Luna is my MVP already because in the Valentine's Day video, they asked him what's the equivalent to getting a girl flowers for guys. And he said, I can't remember, blanking off the top of my head, but he said like this really like nice car. And they said, are you serious? Like that's the equivalent of flowers? And his response was, yeah, flowers are expensive these days. I was laughing so hard. That's my go. That's my MVP just for that comment right there.
Kobe Henry said that a nice hug would be the equivalent. I'm like, that man does need a hug. That guy.
That's a crazy statement.
Yeah, he's just like, I just need a good hug. I think that going off of pressure, I think that this has to be, from the fans' perspective, the most pressure Pablo has probably felt as a coach. I don't know how much, if press asks, hey, Pablo, do you feel under pressure? What's he going to say? He's not going to say anything that's surprising, right? So, and from a club perspective, is he actually under pressure? I really don't think so. But from the fan perspective, this is a good roster, I think. I think that the front office went out. They got some good players. We spent some money. We spent around $14 million. Now you have to do something with that. I do think that this is one of the better rosters that Pablo has had. Last time he had a great roster, RSL was in a great spot until we sold that roster. This time, I don't think we're going to just sell that roster once we get good because I don't think we have a buy and dump scheme owners. We still have half of it. But I think that the Millers are far more invested in Utah as a whole and wanting to bring championships. Ryan got de-invested in RSL, and I think he didn't realize the scope of what soccer is, especially trying to bring in international players, everything like that. I think that Pablo should be one of the guys that is feeling more pressure because of what this roster is, and especially when we're looking at these first 10 games for RSL. It is a very, very tough opening to start this season. So we're on the road against Vancouver, of course, to start the season. Then we've got Seattle for our home opener. And then we're on the road at Atlanta, who was struggling last year. They should be much better this year. And then we've got Austin at home. Again, a team that should be pretty good this season. A lot of people have them picked within the playoffs. A much improved Austin, we should see. San Diego on the road. Good team from last year. I think they'll regress, but still it's a road game. And then you got Kansas City at home. That's the only let up. I think Kansas City's truly going to be awful. I think they will win the wooden spoon this year. But then you got Seattle on the road, San Diego at home, and then you got Miami at home. And to finish off that 10 game, you got Galaxy on the road. It could be very ugly to start the season. And I do think we can turn it around, especially when you look at our final 10 games. It's much easier. We'll look at that a little bit later, not on today's episode. But this opening 10 is pretty tough. And when I just look at this, I'm wondering how many points can come out of this. So out of 30 points available, LD, how many do you think we're going to get out of this opening 10 games? Because I think would you think that's fair as like okay, wait to assess everything until 10 games? I feel like that's what a lot of people say until you really start assessing a team.
Yeah, so I completely agree with what you just said there. I think the FO completely flipped the script back to Pablo, right? I think they did what they needed to do to give him the tools to show the coach that he's going to be for this team. And so I think it's all on Pablo at this point. And when we ended the season, right, a lot of the questions were on the FO. Like we said, Pablo did what he could with the team that he had. And it's up to FO to fill in the spots. Well, they filled in those holes. And I think Pablo now, it's up to him. And I think this is the season where if you don't see a good start, if this is the first time where if things just went to like absolute shambles, I could see him easily being on the hot seat because this is the first time that he's had a full-fledged roster. Obviously, injuries are always going to change the narrative a little bit. So that's like his only like scapegoat he would have is if there's injuries. But besides there being new players on this team and needing some time to gel, he doesn't have a lot of wiggle room as far as not performing well with this team. So I'm not saying he's on the hot seat, but this is the closest that he's ever been on the hot seat if things don't go well this season, in my opinion.
With the opening 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. So, but let's say, so these first 10 games, I'm going to say draw in Vancouver. You know, we do well against Seattle, so I'm going to say we beat Seattle. Let's see, so that's 4 points. We lose in Atlanta. We beat Austin. That's 7. San Diego, I'm going to say we lose there. Sorry, I lost my spot. That's 5 games so far, right? Okay. And then KC, we win. That's 10 points. Am I doing my math still right? Yep. Seattle, yep. I'll say we lose. San Diego, we win. 13. Miami, I mean, that's going to depend on so many things, but I'll give a draw. 14. Is that 10?
Yes. Galaxy, last one.
Oh, and Galaxy.
On the road.
And that's on the road. I'm not actually doing very good that's possible. Out of a possible 30, 14. I'm going to say we beat Galaxy on the road.
So I feel 17 like out of a possible 30?
17 out of possible 30, which doesn't sound very great, but we also have I feel like we had a lot of away games, no?
If you're, it's split pretty 50-50 in this opening, if you're going against this opening, I mean, you already play Seattle twice, you play San Diego twice, you play Vancouver twice. It gets way easier. I think if you can get 17, even 15
that's pretty good.
Out of the possible 30, I think that you should be pretty happy. I'm hoping for 15. Worst case, I think 10. You have to get 10. I think the absolute have-tos is you have to win against Seattle at home. We always beat Seattle at home. They cannot win in Utah. That's against the law for them. They haven't won since like 2011 outside of a random U.S. Open Cup game. So for them, it's illegal. We have to get 3 points. And then you're looking at Kansas City. That's another have to. I think Austin is a have to as well. So that's 9. And then you got to find 1 point somewhere to get to 10. But you would hope that you can scrounge out a win somewhere, whether it's San Diego at home or I think San Diego at home, you got to win. You always want to say you have to win your home games. I think that's a little bit tough to always be undefeated at home. But the absolute have to have it's, I think, are Seattle at home, Austin at home, and then Kansas City at home. You have to get 9 and then find a couple draws along the way, maybe get a road win somewhere. If we get 15, I'd be ecstatic. Now, obviously, that might not sound the most promising to a lot of people, but with how tough this opening schedule is, it gets so much easier. I mean, look at this. We don't even play St. Louis. We don't play Dallas. We don't play Houston. We still get Kansas City another time. And we get Miami out of the way. We get Seattle completely out of the way. We get Vancouver San Diego completely out of the way. So I really like what we have going here. David, what would you say?
Yeah, I'll say 16. I'll go in like the middle between that. My only saving grace, well, yeah, like you said, these are very hard teams. The only saving grace is I think Seattle and maybe Vancouver. They're also in the Champions Cup, I believe, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that kind of
That's right.
that
That's right.
that's hard for some teams. You know, it's a brutal schedule when you're starting the season and you're gonna have to like travel down to wherever they're playing. I need to look at that schedule again. That could also factor in. Like I think of like maybe one of these Seattle games, they'll probably be playing someone on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I do think that, I don't know, I'm not against the Galaxy. I do think that's going to be that could be a good win for us, a Galaxy away. And we do very well typically in the Galaxy side. We haven't won in LAFC's stadium for a bit, but
Yeah.
in Galaxy's home, we pulled out some results. So yeah, I would just go 16. And just like you said, I think that would be great to start the season and then like move on to that momentum. And again, the schedule does get easier. So just try
If
to
we
crank
have
out these hard teams.
we have less than 10, we're in trouble. If we have 15, I think we're happy, especially since right after that, I mean, it's Portland, Dallas, Houston, Colorado, Minnesota, teams that could struggle a bit. I think some of those teams that I mentioned will be pretty good, but overall, it does get a bit easier. You never know. Looking at a schedule right now is always tough, but just looking at the logos, it's not a fun time looking at what these logos have done in the past. But that's a great point with Champions Cup. Vancouver, Seattle, San Diego, and Miami I'm assuming Miami is going to make another deep run, so Miami will be dealing with it as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. Now let's just go into, I wanted to do I don't want to say Western Conference predictions because that would take too long, but let's just say where you think RSL will place. Maddie has RSL placing 5th in the West. He has LAFC winning the West. Jimmy also has LAFC winning the West. But for some reason, I actually thought, this is why I'm going to mention it. I thought it was kind of funny. He had Minnesota getting last place in the West and Seattle getting 13th. Thought that was kind of out of pocket from Jimbo there. He had RSL getting 4th. LD, where do you have RSL going in the West?
Yeah, I think the West is going to be really good this year. I think we'll be pushing for a home playoff spot. Remind me, it's the top 4 that get the home playoff, right?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're going to be pushing at the end of the season for a home playoff spot, but I think we fall just outside of it. I think we end up getting 5th. So that'll probably put us around like 53 to 55 points, somewhere in that nature to get around that 3rd place spot. So that's what I expect, which is still a solid season. Like just because you're an away playoff team, that's not. I mean, like I said, there's so many good teams in the Western Conference that I don't think it's a knock, but it's going to be really hard to place in that top 4 because we're bringing so many new pieces in. We're going to need time to gel. So I could see it being probably a 5th place finish for RSL in the Western Conference.
I like it. David, where do you think RSL places?
Yeah, I think it's 5th place. I do want to comment on Jimmy's prediction with Minnesota United. Remember their coach like left a month ago for back to Europe.
True.
So that's a big part of Minnesota United. He was very good tactically. You could see it in how they played. So I do think Minnesota United is going to go down a peg or two. And they lost like Robin Lod and I don't know about the replacements that they've done. So
Jimmy just doesn't like Colombians. That's the real thing here.
Very possible.
That's a weird experiment, the James Rodriguez move. I don't know how to feel about it because we all probably agree he's amazing for Colombia, but his track record with clubs for the last like 4 or 5 years,
not good.
It's just so weird because like how are you that good in one of the hardest conferences, like the South American World Cup qualifying is one of the hardest like things to achieve. Honestly, they have so many good teams down there, and then also just not do well in Liga MX. It's mind blowing to me. But like I said, LAFC, I like Heung-min Son, and it's not just because he beats up on us every time we see him. But I think he will beat up on other teams a lot more this season as well.
I have Seattle getting 1st in the West. I have Kansas City getting last, and then I have RSL getting 7th. I think I have RSL the lowest out of us. The over-under that Wise Guys, or Soccer Wise, not Wise Guys, Soccer Wise gave RSL was 39.5, and I think we all easily agree that we will clear that over-under. I think that's kind of a crazy low over-under for RSL, especially considering I feel like we've made some pretty solid moves. But I do think that RSL is just not really looked at too much from an MLS perspective. So really the reality of this though is it doesn't actually matter where we place. All of us are focused on the postseason because if we make the playoffs, cool, clap yourself on the back. We could get first. If you don't make it past that first round, you failed. So that is my expectation for RSL. Before we start the season, we do need to have our actual expectations. If RSL does not make it past the first round of the playoffs, I will be disappointed. I don't really give ifs, ands, or buts. It won't be a successful season. You have to get past that first round. I've seen some people say Western Conference Finals is where you need to get to. I think being a top 4 team in this league, kind of hard. I just want to get to the Western Conference semifinals, get past the first round, and then I'm happy. If you can win a playoff round for the first time since we did on our long run to the Western Conference Finals against Portland back in 2021, I'll be pretty happy. Miss me with making the playoffs and just making it just to make it. I don't care about that anymore. So just making it, it won't look like a success for me. I don't care where the talent, the Apple TV people put us. I don't care if we surpass expectations and get a home playoff round game. If we don't win and actually move on, it's not going to be a good season. I won't be happy. So that's my expectation. And from everything that Jason Price has said, that's the front office expectation too. So that is what we should be holding them to because they have made that promise that is what they are looking at as well. It's not just about making the playoffs anymore.
But the first thing that you got to focus on is beating Vancouver this week. So
absolutely.
That's where I, as a fan, have my mindset in. I want to see these players at least start to gel within this first game. If we lose, I'm not going to be up in arms. Obviously, the first games of the season, especially when you're playing away, especially when you're playing on turf, is never the easiest
and
game.
The reigning runner-ups.
Exactly. And they balled. I saw them live against Inter Miami in MLS Cup, and they balled out. Their fan base is freaking awesome. And so I think it's going to be a tough start for RSL. So if they lose this game, the sky isn't falling yet. And I know most fans are educated enough to realize that. Like, one loss in Vancouver doesn't absolutely cement your season. But I think we do just want to see things happen a little bit quicker than we saw last season. The other thing I will say is, this is the first time in a long time where I've seen the projections be so low for RSL, and I've had a lot more optimism than the projections that I'm seeing. Like, sometimes I see these projections, I'm like, you know what? Like, I could see it looking at the roster why they did that, or like they could be right, And this is the first time in a while where I'm like, oh, they've got it wrong. Like, we're going to be so much better than what they're projecting us to be. So I'm excited for that, to have that optimism. And I'm happy that the FO took care of business to give me that, at least a little bit of belief to think otherwise than what those guys are thinking.
So this season long, we're going to play a game. We're predicting every single one. And whoever has the most points at the end of the season, we'll have to figure out something. So think about this for next episode about what the reward will be. And then the punishment for the loser out of us 5, Maddie and Jimmy as well. David, you're going to be in charge of keeping track of us throughout the season. So you'll get 3 points if you predict the score right. And you have to get the teams right too. You can't just say, 2-1 and you were wrong on who had 2. It has to be perfect. So you get 3 points if you're perfect on the score and result. You get 1 point if you get the result right but score wrong. So, and you get no points if you get, 2-1, but you said RSL was going to win 2-1, but it was Vancouver that won 2-1. So if you get the score right and result, 3 points. If you get just result, 1 point. Makes sense. LD, you can go first.
Can you scroll up real quick, David, to the roster, the projected lineup? Sorry. Okay, so I just want to make sure we are agreeing, maybe besides the exception of Mark Chuk being in there for Gozo, that this will be our starting lineup. Or no, I guess Spearings potentially could not be there.
Well, Nelly's
okay.
not going to play.
Oh, and Nelly.
Yeah,
okay. So let's real quick, just so the listeners know, who are we projecting?
Also, Sanabria might not be available. He was listed as a trialist, so we're still waiting on his visa stuff to actually be able to name him on stuff. So who knows?
Okay, so what's our projected lineup right now?
It's tough. I don't even know if I can give one. Right now, it's going to be tough.
Can I give a shout? I would say that's probably. I think the back line's the same as we see. Engel, Glad, Yedlin, Cabral in net. I would say that I do think Sanabria is going to be there, but also I think we're all on the same boat. Catranis is going to be great. Like, he's going to be not like for like. I think Sanabria is a step up, but we're good with him. I do think it's going to be Caliscan's going to be in the midfield somewhere. And then Spearings, if everything goes well. If we don't have Spearings and Anelli and Pablo Ruiz is still on the mend, then we're going to see Griffin Dillon. I think Griffin Dillon's probably going to be a sub. Hopefully we get just Spearings and Caliscan. Then it's going to be Xavier Gozo, Victor, Morgan, and Diego up top.
Okay.
So I see all of that. And then, it could be Dominic going in for Gozo. flip those two. Both very promising players. But that's
Okay,
what I see.
Okay, I appreciate that. With that being said, I'm gonna be I never predict losses unless it's like, all right, we're playing like our B team against LAFC starting 11, right? But I am going to say with that, no, that means we're probably gonna get some goals scored on us. I mean, we have Cabral back there though. I will say it's gonna be a wild game, 2-2 draw. I don't know who's scoring, but it'll be a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. David, what's your prediction here?
I'm going to go a 1-1 draw. And remember, Whitecaps do have to go to Costa Rica on Wednesday and then go back, and then play another midweek game after us.
Very nice. So we are just one of the opening games. They're going to be playing a lot to start the season. Jimmy had 2-0 RSL versus Vancouver. He even gave us goal scores with Gozo and Victor. And then Maddie is 2-1 RSL. I'm going to go 1-3 Vancouver. I think Vancouver is going to get us on this one. They, just so people kind of have a little bit about Vancouver, they did have a couple good signings. Oliver Larraz has been starting for Colorado the last couple years. I think that's a pretty good free agent signing there. And then their big one was Cheek Sabali. He arrives from the League One side FC Metz. He had 21 goals and 11 assists in 122 matches. He also was on the Senegal team that won the 2025 Cup of Nations. I do think that they have had a decent offseason. I don't know if it's enough to offset some of their losses. They didn't lose too much other than Ali Ahmed, who was one of their most productive players on the wing last year. So we'll have to see how they incorporate those players. But I do think Vancouver gets us this week. But that is all we have for you on this week of Royal Riot. Thank you so much for listening to a longer episode. We are very excited for this season to begin. We will be back to you next week. RSL takes on Vancouver Whitecaps at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time. This will should be a very exciting game. We are again at Vancouver. The home opener is next weekend against Seattle. And boys, I actually forgot to say this. I'm officially an RSL season ticket holder for the first time. Me and my buddy decided to buy some RSL season tickets. So at all the RSL games, me and him will be down there, or we'll be helping out with the RSL ticket redistribution that I'll be doing again this season. But this week, RSL at Vancouver, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time. You can watch this on Apple TV. Again, you just need a regular Apple TV subscription this year as well. I haven't really talked about that, but no need for an MLS subscription. Just Apple TV, and you'll be able to watch all the games. But thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.